Hey guys, it's Brindley and it's Monday night, and I am always excited to talk to you guys. Tonight's topic is pretty interesting because it's kind of it's an ongoing journey for me to master this because it's two-sided. There's a two-sided coin. So I remember the first time that someone told me this, and it was my friend Terry Davis Scully, who's one of my dearest and dearest friends. We've known each other for, almost 9 years now. And she said this to me once, and it's always resonated with me. And what she said was, I think I was telling her about someone that wasn't being very kind and had said some pretty unkind things to me. And she said, you know what? Unsolicited advice is a form of criticism, and I don't have to tolerate criticism. And it made me go, huh. And so as I started going through my journey of sobriety, I realized two things. Number one, that I gave a lot of unsolicited advice. And number two, that I allowed people to give me a lot of unsolicited advice, which then meant that I was allowing them to criticize me. And so there was a lot to learn around this. And I remember probably not the best way to do this, yet there was a lot of power that came from it. There was a woman that came up to me one day, and she just started telling me exactly how she felt and what I should do to change my behavior and what I should do to this and that. And in a kind of emotional response moment, I just looked at her and I said, you know what? Unsolicited advice is a form of criticism, and I don't have to accept criticism. So I'm going to walk away, and I hope that we can have different conversations in the future or something like that. And I walked away, and I remember walking away and going, did I just do that? Because in the past, I would do one of two things, right? Like I would get super angry and I would scream at you and I would cause a huge fight, or I would just never talk to you again. Now, this individual and I now talk, and we later laughed about it, and we were able to talk about it. And would I respond that way now? Probably not. Now I would probably just say thank you, and then feel if I needed to revisit the conversation later, then I would come back when my emotions were not as high and there was a little bit more logic in the situation. So a couple things as I was going through and thinking about tonight, and things that I've learned about this, is a couple things. Number one, nobody likes unsolicited advice. There was a poll done in which people were asked if they liked receiving unsolicited advice. And 56% said no, 6% said yes, and 38% said only if it was the right person that gives it. So the majority of individuals don't like to receive unsolicited advice. And that's why it can feel like a form of criticism. And so something that helps me, and I'm a coach, so I just by nature want to help people. And I'm a fixer, right? Self-admittedly. So I just want to fix you. And I don't have that power. I don't have the control. I don't have the power. I always say I'm not God, right? It doesn't say on my driver's license, it says Brindley Tucker. It doesn't say God. So I don't have the power to fix people. And so what I've had to learn to do is, number one, is to ask permission before giving advice. So do I have your permission to give you some feedback? May I make an observation? And this gives the individual the space to say, I'm not in a good place for that right now, or it may not be well received. Now, when we look on the flip side of that, we want to be able that if someone asks us to be able to say, you know what, I'm not in a position right now to hear the feedback. Can I come back to you when I am? And then it's your choice whether you want to go back and hear the feedback or not. My dear friend Dick Dillingham tells us that feedback is the breakfast of champions. The stronger that I've gotten in myself, the more that confident that I've gotten in myself, the more I'm open to hearing feedback, the more I'm open to people telling me so that I can improve. Yet I have to be in a good space, because here's what happens is when we receive unsolicited advice or we receive feedback that we're not ready to hear, we do one of two things: fight or flight. We immediately go into fight or flight. And so we're either going to get defensive, which isn't going to make us feel better, and it's certainly not going to make the other person feel good, or we're going to walk away, and then we've lost the opportunity for that person to ever share feedback with us again. One of my best friends is a very high driver like myself, and she will say things and they will just make me like want to cringe inside. Yet I also know she's right. And that's why it bothers me. Right. And so for me, it's always helped to ask permission. Number two, don't ever start with, may I be honest? Because if you start with may I be honest, the first question that comes to my mind is, well, when are you not honest? So you may just open it by asking the question, may I share something with you? May I provide you some feedback? May I make an observation? Maybe, may I share something that, a pattern that I've noticed? So changing that, or may I be candid with you instead of the word honest? Most people, the advice is coming with good intent, yet however, a lot of times when people are giving unsolicited advice, it's to serve their own self-interest. My friend Diana Kokoska taught me that a lot of people just want to look good and be right. And for a long time, that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to look good and I wanted to be right. And I wanted to be the loudest in the room. And I wanted to tell everyone what I knew. And it still comes because that's one of my my challenges and my opportunities for growth, yet it doesn't come as often. And I've learned to appreciate getting in rooms with people that are smarter than me so that I can listen to them, so that I can hear them. And also realizing that I've earned the right to be there and that I can use my voice. I had a conversation with a friend yesterday, and I'm just going to be vulnerable. Like, there were things that were bothering me and I didn't know why. And I just reached out to her yesterday and I said, you know what? I really want to spend some more time getting to know you. Clearly there's a reason. And I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but sometimes I'm annoyed by you. And I know it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with me. And everyone is our mirror. Right? So when I see something in someone else, if I get upset because someone else is giving me feedback I don't want to hear, that's because A, it's probably true, or B, I'm seeing in myself or seeing in them something that I have in myself that I'm just not ready to confront. And so by having these open dialogues and being able to speak my truth and say, you know what, like, this is on me and I don't want to feel this way anymore. And how, by being honest with you, and her and I were able to talk through it. She gave me some awesome resources that I'm going to read that really helps me. And we're going to spend some time together. And so I think it can work on both sides. Like, am I not wanting to hear the advice? Am I not wanting to approach the person? Am I looking for reasons not to like the person, to go into that flight when really there's something going on inside of me? And then also asking yourself, when I constantly want to tell people what to do, is it because I want to prove myself. I want to feed my ego. I want to look good and I want to be right. Winston Churchill, who I love, said, you will never reach your destination if you stop and throw rocks at every dog that barks. And I love that, because sometimes unsolicited advice and advice coming from a lot of different people, you ask 100 people the same question, you're going to get 100 different opinions. And sometimes those can be distractions. So really it's the solicited advice needs to come from people that you know, that you trust, and that have your best interest in mind. If they're not lifting you up, if they're not truly giving advice from a place of wanting you to do well and wanting you to succeed, then they're probably not someone that you need to seek advice from. And that probably is a form of criticism. So just remember, you don't have to throw rocks at every dog that barks, meaning that the dogs are the distractions on your journey. They're the distractions. They're the people that are giving you advice and telling you to do this and telling you to do that. And a lot of times it's for their own self-serving reasons or to make themselves feel good. And the dogs are the things that hinder us in the pursuit of our dreams. So don't allow all of these things to become distracted, especially when what they're sharing with you is not sincere and it's not appropriate. I give you permission to not respond, to not oblige. If someone shares unsolicited advice with you, just say thank you. Just say thank you, take what you need and leave the rest. I just got a great book recommended me from Via Williams yesterday called I Hear You. and I'm already like halfway through because it's so good. And it's about learning to validate individuals. So rather than giving advice, going into a mode of listening and listening to really hear what they say and validate their feelings, because our feelings are valid. And then that will open up the path for them to truly seek your advice and truly seek your wisdom. Have love, tolerance, and forgiveness. If someone does offer unsolicited advice, maybe ask yourself, okay, 99% of the time, it has nothing to do with me. When that woman came up to me that day, I had nothing to do with that. She was seeing things in me that she needed to address in herself, and she later admitted that. I was simply her mirror, and she was projecting her things on me. That's what my girlfriend and I talked about yesterday about, the things that were annoying me, is that I was projecting on her things that I needed to look at in myself. And so I'll leave you with this, and this is kind of the business twist on this, is I had a really tough conversation with someone a couple months ago, and I loved the way that they framed the conversation. They didn't come right out and start offering advice and, this is going to be hard to hear and you need to take it this way and you need to do. They just simply said, we're going to have a little bit of a difficult conversation, and we're going to work through it together, and we're going to breathe through it. We're going to talk through it. Would that be okay with you? Again, asking that permission. And then when they presented their thoughts, they invited me to respond, and they didn't overlook my feelings. They validated my feelings. And by validating where I was and meeting me where I was, we were then able to navigate into a solution and a win-win conversation. So just remember, unsolicited advice is a form of criticism. So ask yourself, am I allowing people to criticize me? And am I criticizing others? And just say thank you. Just say thank you. Everyone is human and doing the best that they can. So I hope this helped you. Remember, don't throw rocks at every dog that barks on the way to your destination, or you'll never get there. We'll see you next week. And if you have any topics that you want me to talk about or you have questions about, reach out to me. I love to hear from you guys, and we'll see you soon. Bye.